This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. Corruption at both the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services and the Carmichael Road Detention Center remains a long-standing problem, with allegations by both detainees and officials. This according to the U.S. State Department's most recent human rights report issued this week. It says that there were widespread credible reports that immigration officials solicited bribes to prevent detention or grant release, adding that human rights organizations and media reporting allege that officials demanded payment in exchange for telephone calls and sanitary napkins. Now, the Constitution prohibits torture and cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. However, the report notes that at times citizens and visitors allege instances of cruel or degrading treatment of criminal suspects or of migrants by police or immigration officials. It goes on to say that in April, a correctional officer reported that 2 prison officers beat a male prisoner, resulting in hospitalization. There were 4 recorded cases of physical abuse by correctional officers. 2 officers in these cases had disciplinary charges levied against them. The evidence in the remaining 2 cases was deemed insufficient to go to trial, according to the government. It says that law enforcement also investigated 4 alleged cases of rape at the government's only safe house for victims of domestic violence, which was also used to hold migrant detainees who are women and children. 2 investigations resulted in the discharge of the immigration officers involved. Prosecutors dropped a 3rd case because the alleged victim declined to press charges. Prosecutors dropped a 4th case when the accuser died from COVID-19. The report also notes that the law provides criminal penalties for corruption by officials, and the government generally implemented the law effectively. However, there was limited enforcement of conflicts of interest related to government contracts. In fact, it says there were reports of government corruption during the year where officials sometimes engaged in cronyism and accepted small-scale bribes of convenience with impunity. Additionally, the campaign finance system was largely unregulated, the report says, adding that there were few safeguards against quid pro quo donations, creating a vulnerability to corruption and foreign influence. The procurement process was susceptible to corruption since it contained no requirement to engage in open public tenders. In February, the government passed the Public Procurement Bill 2020. Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernander chiming in on concerns raised following last month's record-breaking homicides. In an interview with Jcn News, Bishop Fernander says, as a country, we must not view crime as a police problem or even a church problem, but a national problem.
And I think all of us must work together and decide that this is not the society we would like to see. And let's fight back. I'm not talking about being violent, but with programs, with action, and not just talk.
That said, he shares what the Bahamas Christian Council intends to do to address the issue.
Well, the Christian Council is planning to work in collaboration. I will personally be working with Urban Renewal and its new appointed director, so that we can come up with the spiritual arm of some of the outreaches that they have planned for different sectors of society. And so this is a classic example of the state working with the church so that we could bring some meaningful outreach to our society. And it's more than just an intervention. I believe parks have become the places that drug is sold and the activity is taking place. And so we're going to take over those spaces and try to turn them into positive spaces. And while we're there, we hope the community will embrace our time and let's prevent interference and stop the kind of violence that is taking place in our community.
March of 2022 was marked the bloodiest month in Bahamian history by Assistant Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernander last week, after a whopping 22 homicides were on the books for that month. The second to that figure was back in May of 2012, where 21 homicides were recorded. Vendors on Arawak Cay expressing their gratitude over the steps now being taken to bring some much-needed upgrades to the space in which they earn a living. Many of them say they have been calling for action by the government for years now, and although it's long overdue, they're happy to see that it's finally happening. Bruno Minnis, owner and operator of Bruno's Seafood and Steak Bar, spoke to the press to share his thoughts on the renovations.
Well, I was feeling so good about that, not just seeing one minister, but two ministers at one time on the fish ride to hear our concerns and see the work that needs to be done. Because we mentioned many of our vexing issues that was going on Arawak Cay for the last 7 to 8 years with just the bathrooms, and that was a problem for us for a very long time. It was so bad that it had to be closed down for the last 7 years, and I asked the contractor when he started the work if he saw anything in there that meant for 7 years of closure, and he said no. So I was just wondering why it's closed so long.
Also sharing their thoughts with the media, Mr. Ricardo Williams, owner and operator of the Drifters Restaurant, and Mr. Rodney Russell, president of the Arawak Cay Vendors Association.
We feel like it's a long time coming. Obviously, our patrons have been, some of us have restrooms. But for some of the other restaurants that don't have, our patrons suffering, people using the restroom outside, that's definitely unbecoming.
That is good news for our people here at Arawak Cay. Reason being, we have some establishments who were not able to do their business properly because there were no bathroom facilities to relieve customers who were engaging in their tropical drinks. And it created a problem. Some of our, especially our female customers, female Bahamians who frequent Arawak Cay, there is no place for them to go to relieve themselves, which is very poor. But we are grateful that in a short order, the minister had promised the Arawak Cay business owners that as early as next week, these facilities will be open.
Well, that does it for news this evening. Once again, I'm Leah Cooper, and from all of us here at Jcn News, have a wonderful and safe weekend, everyone.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.